Yo, Casual Raccoon here, and today we speak about Borsalino, 4 cost 5000 power blocker with very unique effect. During opponent's turn, this character gains plus 1000 power and cannot be KO'd by effects. Very strong character card that some of the players even wanted banned in the past. But should you play him in current environment in OP-06 Sakazuki build? Let's start with the pros. Borsalino is great against Gecko Moria leader, and this is because Gecko Moria doesn't have any possible way to remove him other than attacking into it. All of Gecko Moria removal is KO, be it Absalom or Roblucci. Another thing is that most of the Thriller Bark pirates are 4 cost 5000 power characters, so we should have at least one free block or force our opponent playing Gecko Moria to attach Dawn to push through our Borsalino blocker. Borsalino also greatly helps against Katakuri in early game. There are two important cases. First, when Katakuri attaches Dawn, he gets plus 1000 additional power, so he will be swinging 7000 each time they attach a Dawn. And this is really important that on opponent's turn Borsalino has 6000 power, so we can block and protect our life just with one card investment. That would be a 2k counter in this case. However, there is also a second benefit of Borsalino in this matchup, and this is against cards like Gedatsu. Again, this is KO effect, so there will be games where opponent will try to starve you to utilize Gedatsu effect on your strong character cards like Kuzan. So when you see that your opponent leaves you on 4 life, you can play Borsalino to play around Gedatsu removal. Additionally, Borsalino increases your consistency against Yamato leader. As we know, Yamato is very aggressive leader, especially dangerous against 4 life leaders like Sakazuki, even more that we don't play that many 2k counters. Standard build of Sakazuki plays only 8 2k counters. And we want to utilize all of our blockers to survive and stabilize against Yamato leader like Rebecca or Sabo. In standard Sakazuki build we should have around 4 copies of Rebecca and 2 copies of Sabo. And now it's really important to have at least one blocker in the early game against Yamato. And with only 6 copies in a deck, sometimes it might be a challenge to draw them. And here comes Borsalino blocker. Not only in total we will have 8 copies of blockers now, so we should most likely have at least one copy in hand every single time, but he's also navy, so a target for our early game searchers to then drop Borsalino on curve and survive the early game against Yamato leader. Now let's speak a little bit about cons. Even though I mentioned earlier that Borsalino is great against Gecko Moria leader, some of the builds utilize Brook that can be used to play around our Borsalino blocker. And why he can play around? Because his effect is to trash up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. So as you can see, it's not a KO effect, it's just straight up trash, so our Borsalino can be protected from it. Another con is that in late game against Katakuri that our early was so good thanks to Borsalino, it might be a trap that we try to hide behind him and he will be easily rested with Amaru card, because as we know, Amaru can target 4 cost or less, so against Katakuri in the late game your real saving power is Sabo, because he's 5 cost and he cannot be rested by cards like Amaru. Additionally, if we play Mirror, now with the new stage Sakazuki build, it's very easy to bottom deck anything, so there is no real KO effect. Most of the builds play 4 Houndblazes, 2 7 cost Borsalinos and 3 copies of Amano Murakumo sword, especially the stage variant. So our Borsalino blocker doesn't really bring any real value in this matchup, other than being target for 8 cost Gecko Moria. Another con is against Yamato, even though he helps us in the early game again. Because Yamato is in the green and yellow color, he can be rested basically by anything. And the game is built in a way that most of the cards rest 4 cost or less characters, and unfortunately Borsalino is 4 cost character. And one more matchup to discuss cons of our Borsalino blocker is Reiju, and in Reiju we have Niji character that has easy target on our Borsalino to bounce him from the field back to our hand, so essentially we wasted a turn just to get 1k counter back to hand. So to sum up, even though Borsalino blocker is great into KO meta and leaders that can put early pressure with 7k attacks, there is too much easy counterplay against him to justify wasting at least 2 slots on a character card without immediate effect. And by immediate effect I mean something like on play. So in my opinion, unless you expect a lot of Gecko Moria matchups, I would not play Borsalino, and even more into incoming EB-01 meta. And here comes a little Borsalino bonus from me. This is a deck list that was played by our current world champion Guanrong in Asia Finals. And sure, Asia Finals had already legal EB-01 expansion, but for us it's just around the corner. And do you notice that he didn't play any copy of 4-cost Borsalino blocker? And you may say, yeah, different meta, he probably didn't play against many Gecko Morias, but actually he played against the 3 Gecko Morias, where 2 of them were in top cut, and the finals were against one of the best Singapore players that was piloting Moria this day, and he went 7-0. So even though he didn't have a single copy of 4-cost Borsalino, he was able to play against so many Gecko Moria matchups and win the whole thing. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't play 4-cost Borsalino if you expect Gecko Moria leader metagame. Because what Guanrong said in interview for One Piece Top Decks is, I didn't use 4-cost Borsa because I feel that there will be less Moria and 4-cost Borsa in the mirror matches, and other matchups does not feel that good in EB-01 format. So by other matchups he mainly meant obviously mirror, but also red purple low or black yellow Luffy, and still Katakuri is present, so that's that. But now I would like to hear from you. What do you think about 4-cost Borsalino blocker in current meta? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, see you in the next video, subscribe for more One Piece card game content, take it easy.